Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're having some real talk about something that touches absolutely all of us, and that's the American dream. For generations, this dream was sold to us as a very simple, linear idea. You work hard, you buy a single-family home, you build a family, save for retirement, and eventually you pass something forward. But let's just be brutally honest for a second. For so many working families today, that traditional dream has become incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to reach. So today, we're going to look closely at why we need to redefine that dream entirely. We're going to explore how we can move way beyond just a traditional single-family house and start looking at true ownership, land, and lasting economic independence.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the contrast between generations is just stark. On one side, we have the 1950s dream. Now, this was built on a very specific foundation: affordable housing, a single income being more than enough to support an entire family, and stable, long-term jobs you could actually comfortably retire from. But fast forward to our 2020s reality. The conditions that made that old dream possible, they simply don't exist for a lot of people anymore. Today, working families are facing high mortgage rates, dual incomes that are somehow still struggling to cover the basics, AI completely reshaping the job market, and intense competition from well-funded corporate investors. The crucial takeaway here is that the old American dream isn't disappearing because people suddenly stopped working hard. No, it's disappearing because the cost of ownership has skyrocketed far faster than wages and opportunity.
And if you want to see exactly how that squeeze is playing out in the real world, just think about this number for a second: 21%. According to the latest profile of home buyers and sellers from the National Association of Realtors, the share of first-time home buyers has plummeted to a historic low of just 21%. To add to that, the typical age of a first-time buyer has now risen to 40. The timeline isn't just being pushed back, the goalposts are being moved entirely, which is forcing families to delay wealth building by literally decades. This perfectly illustrates how the traditional path of saving up in your 20s and buying a starter home is becoming a thing of the past. For many, that door is just being closed entirely, creating a very real sense of frustration.
So let's break down exactly what is creating this massive barrier. We all know about rising home prices and those stubbornly high mortgage rates that make your monthly payments double what they used to be. But the squeeze goes so much deeper than that. We're talking about soaring insurance premiums and property taxes that hit you even after you own the home. We're talking about the increasing cost of rent, which prevents you from ever saving a down payment in the first place, combined with skyrocketing construction costs. And significantly, it is corporate and investor ownership. If you are part of the 99%, you aren't just competing with the family down the street for a house anymore. You're increasingly competing against massive, faceless investment firms buying up whole neighborhoods. It is a systemic squeeze from absolutely every direction.
Now, we have to be honest here. This squeeze doesn't hit everyone equally. We have to talk frankly about the wealth gap. Federal Reserve data from their survey of consumer finances reveals a pretty stark reality. The typical black family holds just $16 in wealth for every $100 held by a typical white family. This is a massive systemic gap. When we talk about barriers to home ownership, families with less wealth simply have less of a cushion. They have less financial support to transfer down to the next generation, making it incredibly difficult for low-wealth households to ever get a foothold in a housing market where the entry costs just keep rising year after year. And the systemic loss of wealth isn't just happening in the suburbs with single-family homes. It's happening at the very foundation of wealth, land itself. Historically, land is one of the absolute oldest and most reliable forms of wealth we have. USDA data shows that black producers operated about 5.3 million acres across tens of thousands of farms. However, between 2017 and 2022, black-operated farms actually saw an 8% decline. Land loss has historically played a major role in the racial wealth gap, and this ongoing decline represents a severe barrier to creating and passing down generational wealth. Ultimately, losing land means losing economic power, plain and simple.
Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is that it forces us to ask a difficult question. What does ownership actually mean today? On one hand, you have owning a true asset. That means having real control, building equity, the ability to produce something of value, and creating actual generational wealth. On the other hand, you have carrying unaffordable debt. Taking on a massive, high-risk mortgage that you can barely afford isn't true economic independence. It's just the illusion of ownership. Honestly, in a lot of cases, it's a predatory trap that keeps you working just to pay the bank. The new American dream has to be about true assets that give families leverage and stability, not just taking on crushing debt to look successful on paper.
So, if the traditional route is out of reach or just a financial trap, what's the solve? We need alternative paths. We have to completely redefine the dream.
We're talking about rural land development, where you can build incrementally at your own pace. We're looking at manufactured and modular homes, which can significantly reduce those soaring construction costs we talked about earlier. We're also talking about family compounds, cooperatives, and multi-generational living, where multiple generations literally pool their resources to acquire and maintain the property. Listen, these aren't step-downs. These are strategic, highly accessible housing models that completely bypass the traditional overpriced market. Plus, these models naturally foster stronger, more resilient communities where people actively support one another.
One incredibly powerful tool for this new vision is the Community Land Trust. If you haven't heard of these, they are nonprofit, community-based organizations that provide permanently affordable housing. They work by actually owning the land itself, and then they lease it to the people who live in the homes built on that land. It's a brilliant workaround. Why? Because it protects neighborhoods from outside speculation and sudden displacement, and it ensures that wealth and decision-making power stay right there in the local community. By separating the cost of the house from the speculative cost of the land, long-term stability becomes an actual reality for working families.
But hold on, before we all rush out to buy a plot of land for a family compound, we need a serious reality check. Owning land is a powerful asset for sure, but buying it blindly can lead to absolute financial ruin. You have to run a strict reality check before signing anything. Step 1, check your zoning and restrictions. Can you even legally build what you want? Step 2, confirm access roads and get professional surveys. Step 3, verify your utilities and septic capabilities, because going off-grid can be incredibly expensive. Step 4, assess those flood zones. And Step 5, calculate long-term taxes and insurance. Self-sufficiency absolutely does not mean cost-free living. Every single improvement you make changes your tax profile, and you have to plan for that.
And this brilliantly illustrates how land use directly translates to economic power. It's not just a place to put a house. When done right, a well-planned piece of land provides housing, giving you a secure place to live and build. It can provide farming capabilities for both personal food production and external income. It can act as a hub for a small business, giving you much-needed space for storage, services, or agriculture. And crucially, it provides resilience, the physical space for backup systems, solar panels, and water wells. Land literally gives you the power to build outside traditional systems that, quite frankly, were never designed to include everyone equally in the first place.
That word right there, resilience, is absolutely key to the new American dream. True economic independence means reducing your dependence on fragile, expensive, and centralized systems. This involves taking control of your food production, whether that's expansive gardens or raising livestock where it's legal. It means securing your own water access through wells or rainwater catchment systems. It's pursuing energy independence via solar panels or backup generators. And crucially, it requires developing multiple income streams. Because let's face it, relying on just one paycheck is rarely enough protection in today's volatile economy. And please don't overlook community sharing. Building networks for tool libraries and shared childcare is a real game changer. You survive and thrive by building personal systems that hold up even if one job or market completely disappears.
So the crucial point is that this new dream must be strategically planned. It simply cannot just be wished for. It starts with a family plan, sitting down to get brutally honest about your goals, your credit scores, and your responsibilities. Then there's co-op buying, which is pooling your purchasing power with trusted friends or family for land or supplies. Next is estate planning. You have to set up the right wills and trusts to protect the property across generations, so it isn't lost to legal fees. And finally, local networking, connecting with community-minded lenders and real estate attorneys. Look, before you pool a single dollar or share a single acre of land, you have to put expectations in writing so that ownership and responsibilities are crystal clear.
Which brings us to the ultimate question we all need to ask ourselves right now. Is the American dream still a house with a mortgage? Or is it the freedom to control where and how you live, build, work, and create wealth? I want you to really let that sink in. We need to fundamentally rethink what economic justice and true independence mean for ourselves, our families, and our chosen communities. Because ownership can create incredible stability and opportunity, but true economic independence requires informed planning, affordable costs, clear property rights, and absolutely vital protection from predatory systems.
The 99% perspective. Real talk, real strategy for the 99%. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer. Catch you next time.